All right. I have the privilege of introducing Mr. Brendan Madden. Brendan Madden is a high school science teacher at ACS Amman. He will show us how to live outside our comfort zone, confront our own prejudice, and how to have the time of your life doing it. Mr. Madden is a personal friend, and what I admire about him is the sense of, that's awesome, let's get it done, on things like, do you want to run a triathlon, or do you want to do a half marathon? All while he is teaching full-time and being a dad to a sweet toddler, and publishing his recent book about his successful Mount Everest summit. The book is called One More Step. You can find it on Amazon. Mr. Madden will give us the delegates an account on his mindset, self-compassion, highlighting self-compassion, and will be deepening the understanding of making connections with the world, highlighting impermanence, and interacting with the magnificent people he meets on the unbeaten track. Here's some instructions on the presentation. The presentation you're about to see incorporates a video that Mr. Madden has taken from around the world. In order to show these videos without a loss in quality or lagging sound, when Mr. Madden gets to a slide with the YouTube logo on it, a link will show up in the Zoom chat. Clicking on that link will take you directly to the YouTube video. Warning, you might have ads, 5 seconds and then skip them. When you are finished with the video, or you hear Mr. Madden talking again through Zoom, come back to Zoom for the continuation of the keynote. And keep up. At the end of the presentation, there will be a chance for a question and answer session. And please write down the questions in the chat and ask them upon completion of the presentation. And without further ado, Mr. Brendan Madden.
Woohoo! Am I on? I can't see my video. I'm on. I'm on? I'm the host? I have host powers and everything. I'm stoked. Thanks, Mo, for that awesome introduction. Let me do some magic screen stuff here. First, I'd like to thank everybody for having me at the Compassion Summit. I've been following the Compassion Summit for a couple of years now, and I've really enjoyed it, and I'm really excited to be a part of it and presenting this year, keynote speaker. Who would have thought? Little old me. All right. Well, let me get this awkward screen set up for us. I'm going to share my screen and let's get this party started. Okay, I think we are good to go. I got my DJ on the right over here. My lovely wife is helping me out with some of this stuff. So when I heard it was no compassion, no peace was your guys' theme, I thought this fits me and my story perfectly. Now, before we get into the story, as Mo said, there's going to be a couple points where there's YouTube videos that I want you to click on. I really don't like watching Zoom videos where the sound is off and the voices are off. So I've chosen to use this, and it's a little bit extra, but all you have to do is click and come back. Also, throughout the presentation, I put in some reflection points. I saw Cornelius's and Cass's presentation the other day, and I thought it was excellent. And the things you guys were bringing to the table were so interesting. I really wanted to incorporate that more. So I'm not going to stop and ask for them then, but if you can just jot them down on a piece of paper and we'll discuss them at the end of this presentation. So the story I'm about to tell, well, I think it needs a little background, and it's something you guys probably already know. And I guess it starts with the USA and Iran are not good friends. Now, this thorny relationship, it goes back to 1953 when the US and British secret intelligence agencies went into Iran and they threw over the government. They kicked the leaders out and they put in their own puppet government. This way, the Americans and the British could take oil and oil money out of Iran. It stayed like this for 26 years. It wasn't until 1979 that the Iranian people found out. They took to the streets. They raided the US and British embassies, taking 66 hostages and holding them for 444 days. Since then, the US and Iran have had a war of words and sometimes force. I grew up with these words. I grew up in the 1980s in Washington, D.C. And back then, it was clear from everything that I was hearing that USA was number one. we're number one. We're the best country in the world. The Iranians, they were the bad guys. They were the enemies. And I didn't quite understand it. They've never met me. Why wouldn't they like me? I've never met them. Why wouldn't I like them? It would take years of me living outside of my own comfort zone to finally get to the point where I could face these enemies, the Iranians, not to mention the Chinese, the Iraqis, the Kashmiris, and the Nicaraguans. So today, I hope to inspire you to live life outside of your comfort zone. I want you to confront the truths and the lies that have made up your own prejudices. By doing this, I think that you can unlock your compassion for individuals, groups, and nations. I believe this will lead to a more peaceful world. But living outside your comfort zone, it's not easy. And by definition, it's uncomfortable. Sometimes you need a catalyst. For me, my catalyst came in the form of my best buddy. His name is Dave Kellogg. See, after college, I was working in Seattle. I got a desk job at a civil engineering firm, and I really didn't like the job. I hated wearing a suit every day. I was helping people get around environmental laws, which is the whole reason I went to school for a job or for a degree in environmental science in the first place. And I knew subconsciously that that guy right there, that was not me. I knew there had to be something else out there. Well, I was sitting in my cubicle one day, and my buddy Dave called me up. He said he was moving to China to help start the Qingdao American International School, and they couldn't find a science teacher. So before he could say another word, I said, I'm in, 100%. I'm in. I hung up the phone. I texted him. I was like, seriously, I'm in, 100%. I needed to get out of my rut. I needed to get out of where I was. I wasn't thinking, oh, I'm going to live outside my comfort zone and change the world by the things I do and the people I meet. I just wanted to get out of Seattle. China wasn't on my radar at all. All I knew about China was they made lots of stuff. I heard some jokes about some Chinese people, but I also knew that they had the strictest communist government out there. They were also the bad guys. They were also the enemies. Was I an enemy to them? I had to go to China to find out. So here's our first reflection point. I want you guys to think about, maybe just jot down a note. What groups, nations, ideologies have you been taught or learned were your enemies? China. 2 weeks after that conversation with Dave, I landed in Qingdao, China. It's in between Beijing and Shanghai on the coast, to help start the Qingdao American International School. I was having a blast teaching science. It was so much better than my desk job, but China had its challenges. Number one was the language. And I know many of you are out there living in countries where you don't know the language, and I urge you so much, do everything you can to learn. It really became apparent to me one day, people kept cutting in line. I was like, what is going on? How do I say stop cutting in line? So I had to learn, bia cha doi, ni meo li mama, which means, hey, quit cutting in line. You have no manners. And a lot of people, well, they'd stop cutting in line, number one, but they'd start laughing and smiling and be like, who is this foreigner speaking Chinese? And it opened up so many doors, so many opportunities. So even though it's uncomfortable, learning the language and putting yourself out there, you have to do it because it does open so many doors. Dave and I got deep into China. We kept learning the language and we pushed each other to live outside of our own comfort zones. We started a popular band and we started to eat everything they put in front of us. To be honest, I don't mind a good fried scorpion every now and again. It was weird. These enemies, these communists, they not only were becoming our community, but they were becoming our friends. Well, springtime was rolling around that first year in China, and Qingdao has this beautiful coast. I wanted to join a gym. So I didn't want to pay $30 a month for these gyms that were located in those fancy buildings back there, because I wanted to work out outside, and I could have sworn I saw a beach gym. Well, I didn't remember where I saw it. So I started riding my bike along this beautiful boardwalk until I found it. I was not impressed. It was a bunch of Chinese dudes in Speedos lifting rusty dumbbells, doing squats with sandbags, and doing the most awkward stretches, especially while they were wearing Speedos. And the Chinese women, the Chinese women were covered in lycra and wearing these things they call face bikinis. I wasn't sure if I was at a bank heist or actually going to a beach gym. I didn't know what was going on, but I had found the place and I thought, you know what? I'm here. I can practice my Chinese. I might as well see what this is about. I went up to a bald guy wearing fake Oakley sunglasses and looked like a spray-on tan. I asked him how much it was to join the gym. He told me 20 kwai. And I was like, 20 kwai, that's about three US dollars. I was like, $3 US? I was like, a month? And he's like, no, a year. I was like, what are you talking about, a year for $3? I was like, I'm in. Gave him my 20 bucks. I started working out and I started going there every single day after I got done teaching. His name was Lee Ge. He's Santa, Buddha, and Jimmy Fallon all in one. His daily routine was amazing. Rain or shine, summer or winter, and it got cold in the winter, he would go down into the ocean and swim at 6:30 in the morning. He would come back up to his weights, uncover all the tarps, and do a little workout while he waited for his friends, I call them his devotees, to show up and just hang out the rest of the day. I admired his life. It was so simple. We got to be really good friends. We would joke about America and China and all these things we saw in the media about them butting heads. I would tease him about the great communist leaders, Mao, Hu Jintao, and Xi Jinping. He would tease me about Bush and Obama, and of course, Trump. He would call me Megwa Gueza, which translates to American Devil. And I would joke around with him and we would have a blast. I even actually liked some of the local customs. That's me in the middle. That's my face key. Lee Ge, he got it. I was human, he was human. All this garbage about China and America not liking each other, it didn't matter. We opened up to each other and had a great friendship. We became the best of beach buddies. I knew China. I understood China. I knew the language. I wasn't afraid of the communists anymore. Lee Ge and I shared many workouts, many dinners, and many sunsets at this amazing beach in China. And now, for you. When have you made friends with someone you didn't think you would be friends with? My relationship with China was thriving. Dave and I ended up getting a TV show, which allowed us to travel from Beijing's Forbidden City to behind the scenes at archaeological digs in Xi'an at the Terracotta Warriors, to the farthest reaches of China with its borders of Pakistan, Nepal, and Mongolia. We got so deep into China, we even got into places we probably shouldn't have gone. Like this one time we went over this ridge and saw China's nuclear submarine base. We took a quick video and then got out of there really fast. That's it. We were hooked on pushing our limits and decided that our next trip would be epic. We contacted a Fortune 500 company called Haier, who was also based in Qingdao. And we tried to convince them that we were their mascots, the Haier brothers. And they should pay for us to go from Qingdao to Beijing to Lhasa, Tibet, and then ride mountain bikes from Lhasa, Tibet, all the way to Mount Everest. Well, they bought it. Before we knew it, we were standing with a couple of bikes and a couple bags of gear in front of the Potala Palace in Lhasa, Tibet. We were about to embark on a 400-kilometer bike ride that went from Lhasa all the way to Mount Everest. And then once we hit the biggest roadblock in the world, we would go back down the Friendship Highway all the way to Kathmandu. But at that moment, right there before we left, I felt sick to my stomach. It felt like somebody punched me in the stomach. I was nervous. This was a serious challenge. We had no idea what was out there. There was no internet. Perhaps we set our goals too high on this one. But we didn't have a choice, and we started to ride. We kept finding ourselves in these uncomfortable, nerve-wracking situations that sometimes even got frightening. Like this one time we climbed a volcano on the border of China and North Korea and tried to ski into North Korea. We started testing international boundaries and political mindsets. I started to notice that these experiences, the coldest nights, the longest hikes, and challenging these political mindsets, these were addicting. They were addicting to see how we could thrive in these situations. Our confidence grew, and we decided that our next trip would not only be epic, but very risky politically. Before we go there, when have you lived life outside of your comfort zone? Iraq. As Americans, pretty much my entire adult life, the US has been in Iraq. Wars, wars, and wars. Dave and I were looking for somewhere risky politically. So we were looking at the Middle East. And in the top of Iraq, we noticed these white spots on the map. Was that snow? Could you ski there? Could we actually bring our skis into Iraq and show the world that the Iraqis weren't enemies, they're just people? And by skiing there, break down these cultural barriers that had been built up over years and years. Well, with skis in hand, we went to find out. This is going to be the first video. It's 6 minutes long. So please click on the link in the Zoom chat. It's called Ski Iraq and it's on YouTube. And I'll see you back here in 6 minutes.
When you're bored, search the words Ski Iraq.
We two hopelessly avid skiers did, and this is where we ended up. Sites describing a joke t-shirt and a rumored ski area. From there, this is where we ended up.
This might be the first time for these guys putting skis on a taxi. Let's hope it's not the last.
In the city of Dohuk, we asked where we might find a ski area, or at the very least, snow.
Okay.
Osman.
All right.
We're on the right track.
Step by step, man.
We hired a private car to drive us into the far northern mountains. We were told that if we couldn't find a place to ski there, then we weren't going to find it anywhere.
So we are really climbing right now, which is a good sign. Bad sign is everything is bone dry still, so I don't know. But look what we're finding.
We passed a military checkpoint, seen here in the distance, and ended up in a town called Choman, near the border of Iran.
We were closer than ever to skiing in Iraq, but the soldiers at the Choman checkpoint were not pleased by our arrival. They told our driver we could not stay. Through our translator in the North Iraq capital Erbil, we attempted to find a solution.
Because they got his license plate. Where does he have to check in? Where does he have to tell them I'm back? Yeah, why do we have to go all the way back to Erbil? Can't we go back one city or two cities and just go past that checkpoint? This is really frustrating though, because now they're saying we can't stay here because we have to check in at Erbil. Yeah, you have to check in at Erbil tonight because we have to get a permission or something like that. And come on.
Finally, we agreed with the guards to leave before nightfall, which didn't give us much time. And then we got more bad news. There are still deadly leftovers of the extended war between Iran, Kurdish guerrillas, and Saddam Hussein's army.
Essentially, they put landmines up in these mountains too and stuff, so surprising thing to have to deal with. Al-Kham. Al-Kham is landmine.
Came to a crossroads. We don't know whether to go this way or this way. We don't have too much time. Came across some guys doing some mine work. Al-Kham. You can see they've got their mine gear and trying to do some demining. I guess we asked them for snow and they said, keep going. Our fearless driver. Yeah.
Amazing. Bosham.
No mines.
No mines, except why did they have a bunch of mine equipment there? Holy crap. Okay, this is the craziest road I've ever been on. What do you think? Crazy?
It's so scary. Oh man, it is so scary. Wow.
So we've arrived at a tiny village up at the very foot of these huge mountains.
We said we wanted to hike this ridge right here, but they said we couldn't because there's...
Did you ask him if it's safe in the whole valley, or is it only safe on the road? I need to be a little bit more specific than that, because when you say other side, there's the other side of a mountain. So could you just ask him to say, is it only the road, or would it be safe to continue and then get to the snow and climb up? Did they say anything like that? Could you ask him? One sec.
They're just saying on the road.
Yeah, I'm just checking to see.
بس صار كليب.
Well, I mean, it's confusing because he says it's on the other side. What does other side mean? You know, we gotta. I want to try to find as much specifics as possible. This is. Yeah. Okay. Hey, what's up? Okay. Okay. Uh-oh. Oh, it's cut. It cut off. Lost signal.
Our driver refused to continue, so we were on our own. Assalamu alaikum.
سلام.
Alham?
لا 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 لا.
Ciao.
We're not quite on the top of a peak right now, but I can't believe it. I can't believe it, man.
We've done some stupid stuff in order to get here.
But I mean, come on, guys, ski Iraq. Can you believe it? That is awesome.
Skiing in Iraq? Check.
Okay, I think that was our first test ever of throwing a YouTube video into a Zoom meeting, but hopefully you guys are wrapping that up. Skiing in Iraq. So looking back at that video, there was that part where I said, we've done some stupid things to get here. And really, I don't think they were stupid. They were risky, but calculated. We planned them out and then we executed them with our vision. We were prepared and figured that our preparations would prepare us for all the unknowns. Skiing in Iraq allowed us to confront our own prejudices, the media that we'd grown up with, and even our family. We also, even though skiing was the goal, the personal takeaways instilled compassion in us for these people like not a lot of other places could. These enemies, the Iraqis, were just coming out of years of war, first with the Iranians in the 1980s, then with America for the last 3 decades. They were rebuilding from rubble. How could I not feel anything but compassion for these people? With nothing but hope, they welcomed us into their homes with smiles. The people made this trip unforgettable. Now, what group of people do you already feel compassionate towards? Chapter 3, Kashmir. Kashmir, or known as the state of Jammu and Kashmir, is called the land of unimaginable beauty. The skiing there alone warranted a trip. It's located in the very northern part of India and is sandwiched between the Himalayas. We were planning on just going there to go skiing, but then we saw this warning from the US State Department. What is the fuss with Kashmir? Why are we being warned not to go there? I mean, it's up in the middle of the mountains. It should be fine. Well, we made our travel plans and took off. Our plan was to go from New Delhi, then fly to Goa. We would take a train up to Mumbai and then a flight to Kashmir where we would spend 2 weeks skiing. But just before our flight to India, a massacre happened. The Mumbai terrorist attacks. Extremist Islamic terrorist group planned 12 shooting and bombing attacks in the city that lasted 4 days, killing 174 people. They said the terrorists were Pakistani, but the tensions originated in Kashmir. We had to rethink our trip. Was India really worth the risk? Well, not ones to back down from a challenge, we decided to head off. It was intimidating, but we needed to confront our own fears. We spent short time in Mumbai, but we were drawn to Kashmir. This breathtaking but controversial land provided an ideal proving ground to see if the reality justified the media hype. The military presence was evident as soon as we touched down. There were men with machine guns everywhere, all along the sides of the streets, and at the end of the streets, they would have barricades with several military men inside of them. It was sad. Here's an area with so much promise, but they had been through so much war, they were run down. You could see it on the faces of the people and the faces of their shops. We headed up to the ski area, expecting there to be way less military there. We were wrong. Before we even got on the gondola, we were confronted with men with machine guns, even in our ski boots. I don't know what they think we were going to do, but they were definitely intimidating. We spent 2 weeks there trying to figure out what was the problem in Kashmir. Well, the cause of the problem is India thinks Kashmir is theirs. Pakistan thinks Kashmir is theirs. The Kashmiris just want to be left alone. But the effect of this cause is tons of military presence in India. When you have such a big military presence, of course, skirmishes happen. A lot of the protests with locals ended up being violent, and many people have been killed. For the people that we met, tourism was their livelihood. They encouraged us to come, and they encouraged us to encourage others. Please take a look at this 2-minute conclusion of our trip in India that we called Risking India.
So, is exploring a location like Kashmir worth it? By traveling out of our comfort zone, we afforded ourselves exclusive access to some of the best skiing in the world and some of the most interesting conversations of our lives.
Tourists have an important role, you know. At least we'll be happy to see these people going back and just with the experience here in Kashmir and just educating the other peoples here. So it's a positive thing, and we have always welcomed tourism here, and in future also, you know, we will be happy to see tourists here.
I can't think of anybody who traveled here during this time feeling threatened. So it's unfortunate that from the year before, where everything as far as tourism is concerned was fully back on track and the numbers were good, it plunged to nothing because all of a sudden serious travel advisories were issued.
Press say everyone, oh, it is going to Bala Bala, which is not true. You can go where you want, take some local person with you who will know you the area and enjoy it. It's God giving you award, the mountain. It is God giving you award. Go ahead and enjoy it.
To get to the 13,400 foot peak of Gulmarg, you gotta earn it.
But the span of the Himalayas behind you is amazing.
Indeed, we did enjoy it. In the most real sense, we had serious fun, chasing fear to its source, first in Mumbai and then in Kashmir, and ultimately educating ourselves to the point of no longer being afraid made this vacation far more incredible than we had ever imagined.
I never imagined in my entire life that I would end up in Kashmir skiing. I also never imagined I would feel such compassion towards the Kashmiris. Their problem is very complex, but after understanding their hardships and knowing what I could do for them, I encouraged as many people as I know to go to Kashmir and have some of the most unbelievable skiing and make some unbelievable relationships along the way. I even brought my wife up there a couple years ago, and we went skiing at Gulmarg. Now, your turn. Where have you seen the media and nations exacerbate conflict? Exacerbate means to make things worse, by the way. Well, Dave and I didn't stop in Kashmir. Our next adventure was insane. It had political, natural, and physical dangers. We went to Nicaragua. They have a $50 billion proposed Nicaraguan Grand Canal. Now, Nicaragua is the second poorest country in the Americas. So a project of this size could add so much wealth to the country. But you can't have something with no give in return. And there were a lot of unknowns of what was going on. First of all, this was being funded by a Chinese billionaire. And we weren't sure where was the money going to go from the canal. I really doubted that it was going to go to the local people. Also, the amount of environmental damage that could happen with the canal would be tremendous. Ecosystems could be destroyed all the way across the country, and it would displace tens of thousands of Nicaraguans. But we couldn't find any information on the actual canal. All the websites just said, "Oh, a canal is coming," and there was no clear evidence of what ecosystems were being destroyed, who was going to be displaced, where would the money go. There was one thing that was very, very clear. We got a stern warning in an email from a journalist who had been imprisoned in Nicaragua looking after details of the canal. Here's the warning in our trailer for Nicaragua. A canal runs through it. Check it out. And I'll see you back here in 1 minute.
Look, I will tell you this. Don't do it.
This is by far the most Zelda adventure I've ever been on.
And keep your mouth shut before you head out.
God give me this piece of land. You want that?
When the authorities do bust you, they will use all of that against you as a threat to the state.
Oh, we don't know where we are again.
Remember, I said don't do it.
Nicaragua is not a wide country unless you're on foot.
This sucks. So crappy sometimes.
One of the most poetic moments I think I've had.
It was insane. Like, we found ourselves in the middle of nowhere. At one point, we were actually stuck in the jungle and we had to try and cut ourselves out with our machetes. That's what this is, my machete. We were also stuck in places where we had to stay in shacks. And we were stuck there until we were rescued by kids with a hand-carved canoe. It was unbelievable. In Nicaragua, we couldn't rely on the internet. We couldn't rely on guidebooks. There was no hotels.com review for where we wanted to stay. There was no TripAdvisor for what we should be eating that night. We had to rely on our wits. Unfortunately, our wits were worthless. Put Dave and I in the mountains and we can do a lot of things. Us in the jungle was a disaster. We were always outside of our comfort zone. This picture is actually really funny. We were in this area where we were looking for the black mamba, which is one of the most deadly snakes in the world. The water was blood red from the roots of these mango trees. There was no way we could have made it through this country without the help of the locals. They put us up in their houses and they gave us some of the best local cuisine we could ever have. It turns out compassion is a two-way street. And what did we find out? Well, the canal project is still in limbo. Nobody knows whether it's going to happen or not happen. So the people along the canal route, well, they're going to stay there until they can't. And as far as the plants and animals and ecosystems, they were all already endangered. And I don't see how the canal would help them out. But perhaps the canal will never be built. Perhaps our trip across Nicaragua was just a giant waste of time. Well, we were all okay with that because we had, again, the time of our lives. Now, we were almost ready for our biggest challenge, But before we go there, where would be the most uncomfortable place for you to travel to? Iran. We got tickets to Tehran International Airport, and we were nervous, really nervous going into the country. Here we were, sworn enemies of this country. We were nervous, but again, we had been living our life outside of our comfort zone for so long that we've kind of trained ourselves mentally and physically. Didn't mean that we didn't still get nervous, we still did. But remember that 1979 revolution? Well, we arrived on the 30th anniversary of that revolution. Check out the video. I'll see you back here in 2.5 minutes.
Washington broke ties with Iran shortly after the 1979 Islamic Revolution that saw the US-backed Shah ousted and Ayatollah Khomeini assume power.
It is quite clear a real change should be fundamental and not tactical, and it is clear the Iranian nation welcomes real changes. It is ready for talks, but in a fair atmosphere with mutual respect.
What you are seeing is the annual magnificent victory of the Islamic Revolution. We happen to be there on the 30th anniversary.
In terms of world parties, this get-together presented a different vibe than others we've experienced.
I just found out there's no hot dog stand and no beer garden. What kind of party is this?
You ever get the feeling you're a head too tall? Hey, there are hot dogs.
Lima bean, a little bit of salt on it. This is good revolution food.
That's a lot of beans. What's this called? Babu. Tastes like a beet. Pure beet. That's it. You like beets? You'll like Labu. I found a painting by Mariam Mafwari, a high school girl. It was just lying in the street and no one was taking it, so I just picked it up. And this is one of the best kinds of souvenirs you can ever get. This is special.
Yeah. Okay. Hello.
That was the Iranian Revolution. And it wasn't always that hectic. We moved away from the festivities down at the Tahrir Square, and a group of men approached us. They said, "Where are you guys from?" And we said, "America." And they walked away. And then they came back a couple seconds later and they said, "Why are you here?" And we said, "Want to understand Iran." They invited us and our government minder with them for tea, and we had a great time. Now, our government minder was actually with us 24 hours a day. And for people who really like traveling outside of our comfort zones and doing things on our own, we were not looking forward to this guide. But he ended up being an amazing person and helped us see Iran in a whole new way. Here's the final video for you guys to watch today from me, called Iranian Road Trip. I'll see you back here in 4 minutes.
If you're an American visiting Iran,
I like to party.
you must have a guide, or what some prefer to call a minder. This was ours. His name is Mohsen.
And this is us. We aren't the kind of tourists that like to have a guide. We prefer to travel independently. But again, we had no choice.
So together, we ventured beyond the concrete sprawl of Tehran and learned not just about Iran, but about each other.
Road trip, road trip, road trip, road trip. Now come over the border, road trip, road trip.
Our first stop was Tehran's domestic airport and a short flight to Shiraz. He said the city was sure to impress us.
From Shiraz to Persepolis.
Added to this.
What's the rope for? What's this rope for? Are you supposed to be on the other? Oh my gosh.
From Persepolis, we rolled north through deserts and mountains.
Next, Yazd, a city straight off the Star Wars planet Tatooine.
This is better. This is why you hire a guide.
Esfahan, here we come.
Let's do it again.
Yeah, our guide's lost right now.
Not cool.
Been on the bus for hours.
After Esfahan, the Alborz Mountains for skiing.
Yeah, road trip, what's going on?
Yeah, we got a speeding ticket. Apparently, they actually follow the rules here, and we passed a cop where we shouldn't have. And we're speeding as well.
It turns out the rules are flexible. The police dropped the ticket.
Pizza, French fries. No, pizza, French fries. Pizza.
Our guide had never skied before, but it turns out he's a quick learner.
This is the lunch our fearless guide put together for us.
Spaghetti sauce, lentils, tomatoes, cheese. Is there anything else going on tonight? This is it.
Tried to find a party.
No party.
I ran no party.
I ran no party, so instead, we're gonna watch The Mummy.
Mummy 3.
All in all, having a guide turned out to be much cooler than we imagined. In other words, being forced to have a minder, well, if it's someone like Mohsen, we don't mind at all.
Just want to say thank you very much. We had an amazing trip, and you are the greatest guide in the world.
The guide of guides.
The guide of guides.
You were the tourist of the tourist of the tourist. Crazy boy.
Road trip, road trip, road trip, road trip. Now come with me, baby, run with me. Over the border, road trip, road trip, road trip, over the border.
So why are you gonna put those oranges in the car?
Yeah, it had a good smell.
Better than us?
Better than us? Don't we smoke it?
These are smell fresh fruit. You smell of the human body.
Oh man, I missed that guy for sure. Mohsen was incredible. If it wasn't obvious in that video, we had the time of our lives. It was so fun exploring Iran with him and meeting different people. When we got back to Tehran, we got invited to cafes. We got invited to trendy hipster art parties. And we even got invited over to a family's house where they cooked us an amazing meal. And we got to share our stories with them and their stories with us. And it happened almost every single time the same conversation would come up. Yeah, they hated the US government, but they hated their government as well. They, more than anywhere in Iran, they understood that people are at one level and all this government garbage is at another level. Everybody emphasized this. Why is this disconnect here? Why do we have governments that don't have the compassion that people have? Why growing up did I think that these people were my enemies? It's a theme that resonated through all of the trips that we've done. And it got me thinking, what can we do to change this for the future? How can I change this for the future? Where would I go next to help solve some of the problems? Well, it was really interesting because it seemed to come all the way back around. If I was to go anywhere right now to try and understand people that I don't understand, I think it would be here. So what's next for Dave and I? Well, we'll see. But Dave's in Tacoma with a brand new baby girl and his other daughter and his wife. I live in Jordan with my wife and my 1-year-old daughter. We aren't finished with our goal of understanding the world to promote peace and have a blast doing it, but it's time we pass the torch. Now it's your turn. No compassion, no peace. Know your enemies and know they don't have to be your enemies. I know, I feel it, I understand it. And you living outside of your home country probably understand it as well. Whether you like it or not, you guys are the future leaders of the world. Confront your prejudices by living outside of your comfort zone and have the time of your life doing it. I look forward to seeing the world that you create. Thank you for your time. And now I will entertain any questions, or if you would like to talk about any reflections or parts of the presentations that resonated with you, I would love to hear them. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. I think it's really cool that what you said about like asking Hair or whatever that company name is to yeah, I don't yeah. To like convince them to fund your tour. And I think it's really cool that they did it and that it changed the way, honestly, even now I view other countries that I haven't like been to.
For the part where, yeah, the same part, you know how you said that you became sick, you felt sick right before it.
Yeah.
So did you end up going through with the motorbike? I think it was the.
No, it was a mountain bike. So we pedal.
Sorry.
So,
Yeah,
and it was
so-
crazy because there was, at that time, there was no internet. The roads were actually dirt roads. We ended up making it to Mount Everest Base Camp, and it was crazy because we had to get the shot of us in front of Mount Everest for like, really to get the trip paid for, because that's what they wanted. And it was cloudy and cloudy and cloudy. And we were like, oh my gosh, we're never going to see this mountain. And then it came out one morning and we just biked up to like this viewpoint and got that amazing shot of us in front of Mount Everest. And then we actually did the longest mountain bike downhill in the world from Everest to Kathmandu, Nepal. It was incredible.
What was the television show name that you guys had?
So we worked for a company called Lonely Planet. Do you know them?
Oh yeah, that was in the first
They make
video,
the
wasn't
guidebooks.
it?
So
Yeah.
we've done a lot with them. We also worked for a company in China called Bon TV, and we had a couple different shows there. We had one called Take Me to China, where we would actually have contestants come over and we would show them different cultural experiences in China. And we had one called China Driven, where we take a car and drive out into the middle of China and just talk with the locals. But our film company is called In Deep Films, and that's where most of the videos can be found.
I share a similar.
Zainab, go ahead.
I share a similar story to yours. So we went to Turkey a couple of years back, and when we went there, we went to a city which was just caves. It was very natural, and our tour guide. So we also had a tour guide there, and we went in the caves, and we kind of got lost. And people there live in the caves, so like their houses are carved within the caves. So we went and we found this family, and they were very welcoming, and they let us in their house, and they explained to us where it was, and the lady was ready to cook us food. And from that day onwards, I have a different respect for Turkey, because these kind of things aren't really mentioned in today's world. On like, we only mention the bad things about people, but we don't really mention how like great they are. So that's like one thing I shared, because we were lost and they were very welcoming.
Yeah, it's so great when you meet those people, and 99% of the time they're open to share their stories, share their home, because everybody around the world, I mean, we're all human, right? We want the best for our families, and we want to share and be in peace.
Sorry.
Sorry. All right, I just want to say I love how like the videos are so fun and entertaining, but as well I really like how your guys' intention was like to kind of like conquer like the governments representing people, and it's like really, because like I feel like I so resonate to that, like with the government and like the media just covering like one side of the story, but like when you're actually there, it's completely different, and everyone is just like, you don't realize how relaxed and how like chill everyone is and open until like you're there. And I just think it's awesome, and like how you guys like had the opportunity and like pushed yourselves to see and like put yourself in uncomfortable situations, because I feel like the best memories are made like there, and I feel like that's like awesome. Like I'm so like inspired to do the same, low key.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you very much. Yeah, another place that I felt that I didn't mention was I was in Egypt during the Arab Spring, and the media was blowing it so far out of proportion. I mean, if you were downtown in the main square, that was Tahrir Square, downtown in the main square, yeah, there were some skirmishes and stuff, but everybody was just going about their normal lives, the majority of the people. So yeah, thanks for resonating with that.
I just wanted to ask you, oh, sorry. I just wanted to say, like, so as someone who's so like well-traveled and you have been in many places where there was conflict, but when you actually got to these places, it was different than how it appears. Because I don't think every single person has this opportunity to go around. So what do you suggest is the right way for us to bridge these like large divides between people that we can see in the media and we can see between countries?
Well, I mean, again, it starts with you. And for me, it was that first trip to China that really showed me that, I can live with being uncomfortable, and I love it. That's what I love. That's why I live in Jordan now. I'm trying to learn Arabic and try and understand this culture more. But I think, it starts with you, and you have to find that place that, maybe you think it's going to be amazing, it's going to be amazing, and you go there and you find it's amazing, and then you go back to your family or how you were raised to think, oh, it's dangerous and the media is blah blah blah, and you can tell people that, and that's how the stories get passed along.
Actually, I love what you share about Iraq. It was really a surprise for me to see this activity happen there. Thank you for sharing. It gives us a different perspective, about places and people and countries. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much.
Yes, I would also like to thank you so much for inspiring us to get to learn and know more about the world around us. And I would like also to collaborate on a very important idea that you have mentioned in your talk. You said that that we as human beings, as people who live in countries, would always accept each other and would always share our humanity with each other. But it is always the governments that separate us. And when you look at it, and when you get to learn about these countries and learn the stories about people who live in these countries, you get to view these countries from the perspective of the eyes of a human being, instead of the perspective of politics or economy or industry. Because personally, I have always viewed the US as being the strongest country economically, as being the country that controls everything in the world. But when I personally got to meet people from the US, this perspective changed 180%. And I started wishing that and I started to view Americans in a very different way, and even started to realize that they suffer as much as people in countries like mine do, and that is really, really important. So yeah, thank you so much.
Welcome. And I think the problem is it's getting worse. Even in America, we're dividing ourselves, and the media and everybody's feeding off of their own thoughts already, and so you really have to break the mold and say, is that really what it's like? I need to go to middle America and see, is that what it's really like? Like, why are people thinking the way they do? What are the problems there that are making people choose governments that I feel don't represent this human to human personal contact?
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to say that, like, I really admired how in each location you went to, you got to know the culture and the people that were there, and you didn't make assumptions or let prejudices that you previously knew, like, got in the way. Because I grew up in America and I was a minority as a Muslim, and a lot of people, like, when they would talk to me, they would they would show like discrimination, or they would just based on things they heard off the news or their parents, they would treat me like that without even like getting to know who I was. I thought it was really cool how you didn't let that stop you.
Thank you. And I almost think not only did we not let it stop us, I think it was the catalyst of kind of our thinking. It was like, we want to go show people that it doesn't matter if you're Muslim or Christian or Iraqi or wherever you're from, again, people are people. And unfortunately, it's still like that in a lot of countries. And it's up to you guys to help change this. And I also wanted to say about that, on that same thing, I mean, maybe you have to educate your parents too. You know, I mean, my mom, when she hears I'm going to Iraq, she freaks out. You know, she didn't like a lot of the places that I went to, but now I think she understands a lot more, and I think she has her own different opinions about what she sees on the media.
I am a drama teacher out here in Saudi, and I just want to say I really appreciate Asil's comments and also your emphasis on the power of stories to change lives. You know, there is something in theater called popular theater, social issue theater, where literally you just get a community together in need talking about their stories, and you can replay that with members from an audience coming in and perhaps offering a solution, and then you act that out. And it actually can inspire communities to make those changes. And I just find that, I think someone said something like, you can't make some of this stuff up, that truth is more interesting than fiction. And so I was sort of hearing possibilities for us, even if you could do nothing. You know, out in Saudi Arabia in our community, there's a perception in our school community that we can't bridge with the community, but I do believe that we can through stories. And you know, you both made that point very well.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think it's hard, especially for us who are living abroad. It's very easy to stay in your bubble, you know, and it's how can we still cross those cultural lines, you know, and get out there into the community. And again, I think one of the keys is language.
I just wanted to say that I really liked your presentation. Like, I really enjoyed how you took an aspect of humor in it and like presented how we shouldn't base our assumptions on stereotypes and prejudice, and you walked like through it without anything. And I really like how you like preserved other people and how you opened our minds and different perspectives of how we can view things and not what we're learned to view things.
Yeah, thank you. I think it's important when if you are going to, you know, put yourself out there, you know, do it with a light heart. Now, and one of the things, like having a prop like skis, I mean, we immediately were jokers showing up in Iraq with skis. You know, I mean, everybody who saw us were like, what the heck are these guys doing with skis in Iraq? Like, they must be insane. And it's a really good way to break down barriers between people. You know, it's something as simple as carrying skis or carrying a guitar. You know, it shows them that you're there for an experience, and a positive experience.
I had a question. Sorry. How did Hire have what led them to actually, like, how did you guys convince them to pay for your mountain bike trip?
Mountain bikes. It was not a motorbike.
Was the did the bikes, were they from Hire itself? Like, were they from the
No. So the deal was, it was actually leading up to the 2008 Olympics, and Hire wanted to do some kind of like branding push. And in China, like YouTube and the internet, it was all like really just starting to have traction then. And so then we proposed this video series that we would do for them. And it's called Hire and Hire, the Hire brothers' journey from Qingdao to Mount Everest. And so we went from Qingdao, we did a video there. I think we did 3 in Beijing. Then we did 1 on what's called the Sky Train from Beijing that goes up to Lhasa. And then we did a 3 video series leading up to that, getting to Mount Everest. And it was it was the type of thing, well, in China as well, if you can speak Chinese and you have a foreign face, a lot of times you can get stuff that you would never get in your home country. So, I mean, we had that, the timing was right. And to be honest, they really didn't pay that much. Like, the trip didn't, well, we were very cheap. And, but it was a blast. And I don't know if we would have done it without them.
Can I say, sorry.
Yep.
I just wanted to say, weren't you ever like scared to do any of the you were doing?
I think we were scared a lot, you know, and that's that piece of being uncomfortable. You know, you have to put yourself in these situations where you're like, this is a little crazy. Like that scene of me in the car, and I'm like, this is insane. Like, you have to get there, I think, in order to push yourself past your own limits. I've been told that's the last question. So thank you guys very much. You can find In Deep Films on those YouTube links. Also, as Mo said, I have a book called One More Step. It's available on Amazon. So thank you guys very much. And if you're ever in Amman, come by and say hi. Thanks, guys.
Let's see if you guys remember. Huh? You remember that? Awesome. Awesome. Brendan, we are clapping silently for you, my man. We are clapping silently for you. Thank you so much.